Hello.
Hello. Oh,
Welcome to today's session.
yeah, thank you. Thank you for seeing me today. I don't know, things have been really bugging me lately. Things have been really getting to me. It's just, I don't know. I had something kind of more specific that I wanted to talk to you about today, I guess.
Mm, okay. Well, what's been on your mind? What's been bothering you or haunting you?
I've been really bothered lately by men.
Mm. Yeah. No. No. Men can be. Men is quite complicated. They can really contradict themselves a lot. Men are a little bit scary, but not really as scary as people try to make them out to be.
No, no, I
Uh,
mean,
Kind of sexy, in the scariness.
yeah, yeah. Well, I agree there, but that's not really what I'm talking about here. What I mean to say is men.
Oh, okay. So less so of like men as like the people and more as like men as like the concept and the way it's sort of like put on people, a sort of cycle of rebirth that men represent.
No, no, I'm not explaining this well. Uh, I'm referring to Men, the movie by Alex Garland that just recently came out. Have you seen it at all?
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that movie. What was it? What was it
Oh,
about
okay.
again? Something
Uh,
about
it was
guys?
it was about guys being dudes.
Yeah. Oh, Jackass 4. Yeah, I know. That was really great.
No, not that one. The other men. Yeah,
Oh,
I went
Alex Garland's man, the guy who doesn't make good movies.
the guy who's really been struggling. Yeah, I went and I decided to go see Men. Because it's been a while since I got out to the theater. I figured I would go people watch and just see what the men get up to on screen.
Yeah, I
And
mean, who better to make a movie about men than a man?
Yeah, I agree. I think so. It's a very sort of like it's this sort of intersectional representation. It's this sort of it's very he's staying in his lane with this
Yeah.
movie. If there's one thing he's definitely doing.
And
Uh
he's already demonstrated how good he is at writing and representing women. So I
yeah.
think it's time for us to also see, like how well can he write and represent men?
Yeah, absolutely. Uh yeah, but unfortunately it's a little bit more complicated than that. Well, we've both seen Annihilation, his prior film.
I was gonna say complicated is very, very shocking to hear from an Alex Garland film.
Yeah, it's
Muddled, I would say,
mm-hmm.
confused,
Mm-hmm.
um, not as smart as it thinks it is, little obvious,
Yeah.
um, drive by,
Kind of a
but
sledgehammer of themes or whatever.
sort of starting with an idea and then not going any further with it.
Mm.
But you'd say men is complicated.
Complicated. Yeah, I guess what I would say, well, the best place to kind of start is to really, really sort of describe the film and what the film is. So
Okay, I dare you to try to describe.
Oh god, shit, fuck.
Without just immediately jumping to the ending sequence.
We're
Describe what men is.
I feel like a horse with like a carrot on a stick in front of me right now. I feel like I'm being asked to eat my veggies before my porridge. Yeah, so Men is a film about Harper. Harper is visiting out in the country. She's just lost her husband. Her abusive husband has killed himself in front of her very eyes, and she's traumatized by that.
Possibly by accident,
Possibly.
possibly on purpose.
It's,
That's how you know it's a thinking movie.
it's a thinking man's movie, even though it's
Is
very
because they It's because they tell you that it is a suicide, and then they go, or maybe it wasn't. Oh,
Ooh, maybe
what if it
you
was
did
an
it.
accident?
Maybe you did it, you horrid bitch. Yeah, it's kind of showing the hand of where the movie goes, but
Yeah.
she escapes to the countryside to stay in an Airbnb, and she is accosted repeatedly by more and more British men.
Who
And
all look bafflingly the same.
bafflingly similar. It's
Yeah,
interesting. Yeah, they all the men are played by Rory Kinnear, who I've
and including
simultaneously never seen before and have seen 5,000 times before.
yeah, no, he's one of those actors. Jumping ahead a little bit, including the teenager who they deep fake his face and hairline onto, which makes him
I
look like the doll from The Boy.
so oh my god. Yeah, so that would be kind of like a major scene where I started to kind of see really where the movie was coming from, where they were just kind of not really going to worry themselves with the like stylistic aspect of, the suspension of disbelief around a like adult man photoshopped onto a boy's head, calling a woman a bitch because she doesn't want to play games with him. She doesn't want to play Squid Games. Uh,
They don't play hide and seek. Uh, a thing which the character is both too old and also too living in 2022 to ask an adult to play with them.
I mean, I don't know. Britain, there's no telling if, when
Oh, that's that kid could have been 8.
they could be playing hoop and stick over there for all I fucking know. Yeah, that one's tough. There's a lot that this movie is asking of you, which is really interesting for a film that is such a forum argument of a movie. Like it's this kind of like half thought situation of like, hey, what if you had to live as a woman and men were just fucking awful all the time? What if? What if? Which to about 60% of the population comes across in a very specific way. A very interesting way.
If you're gonna like make a movie like that, I feel like you should like really hate women in the way like in the way Lars von Trier does. Cause at least you'll give me something like at least you're just gonna be telling on yourself.
Right, yeah.
But this is like, oh, wouldn't it be terrible to be a woman? I
Ugh.
not if I was there. If I was there, it'd be fine.
Not if I had something to say about
Not if
it.
I had something to say about this. Because then
Yeah.
it's like, okay, you're not telling me anything you didn't read on Twitter.
It's like, oh, you read a Twitter thread about how about some woman explaining her experience of getting like harassed on the BART, and
You read one of those Twitter threads that starts with every woman you know has been passed over for a promotion at the advertising firm
and
where
he
she
got
works.
and he got so steaming mad. He threw his hat on the ground and started stomping on it, and then he wrote men. Uh, yeah. So there's the teenager with the adult man's head. There is the pastor who basically kind of unsubtly says, hey, maybe your husband killed himself because of you. You ever thought about that? Maybe it's because you're
Oh,
just
okay.
such an awful
We
bitch.
we have to circle back around that pastor. That pastor exemplifies like everything wrong to me with this film, and also with Alex Garland's filmmaking decisions that he tends to make.
Yeah.
But we'll come back to that guy. There's him.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, there's the guy who runs the Airbnb, who I guess is supposed to be kind of the not all men character. Like, and then it's supposed to be like, oh, even the chivalrous man will betray you. My spoilers. That is established by after he tries to help her, she accidentally hits him with her car. And I guess that just makes him go crazy. I guess that's what it takes to turn a man into a misogynist. Is to run him over with your car.
you know, yeah. That like
Which, like, not to be like, oh, he should have been a good guy, but I feel like a smarter film could have made it so that he's on the far end of extreme, like the
Right.
farthest end of extreme for that kind of behavior, where it's like he's not overtly sinister or malicious and is kind of a good guy, but still sort of ultimately still condescends to her, and that ends up putting her more in danger. Like he ends up being an accomplice to the others, but not like an active participant.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yes.
that's what a smarter film doing this kind of thing would be. But no, it's like, ah man, even the guys you think are good sometimes, like sometimes you got to trust your gut, and they'll just freak out and try to hit you with a car after you run them over with your car.
They will simply fucking lose it and go edgelord crazy and try to murder you. I guess it would make me mad if I got run over. I don't know. I don't know if I would hunt down the person quite the way he does. But that's not a qualm I have with the film. That's just a very it's
Yeah.
just a very very silly sequence of events.
Yeah. It's not like that's the critique of it. It's just that it's like it feels very like he got to that point of the film and was like, "Fuck, I forgot to do something with this guy."
This guy's got to get real bad real fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like it's kind of the typical Alex Garland thing, just like trying to make a point, trying to and just trying to wrap things up nicely and neatly. And then we have Naked Man. We have Nude Man.
We also have the cop
Yeah, there is the
and
cop.
all like a bunch of guys at the pub as well. There's like a phenotype in this town. This
It's just the one guy. The one guy
a
that
Rory
lives there.
Kinnear phenotype, yeah.
A real Pokedex of gentlemen that we have to choose from here. Which collectible men card did you get at your screening? I got Jeffrey, which is like a really common one and
Oh.
doesn't go for anything on eBay.
Yeah, no, I got the ancient Mew card. They just had a bunch left over still, so they
What the
gave us one of those
fuck?
instead. I also got in Marvel's Inhumans slap bracelet.
Damn.
I actually do have. I actually do have still.
Jesus Christ. Damn, I gotta go back
Uh,
to the AMC and see if I can pay them for all of the men cards.
uh, well, because this is a film that encourages you to like, really rewatch it, so you can be like, oh, where are the Rory Kinners I missed, like, oh, when she's on the phone, and it glitches, was that the face of her late husband I saw?
Oh!
You could pick up on all the subtle foreshadowing, like when there's an axe in the background, and they say we'll use that axe on them, and then they do later in the
Chekhov's
film.
axe.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a little bit of an awkward thing with this film that we also should, I guess, talk about, um, which is that man, he saw an Ari Aster film and it ruined his fucking life. This man was absolutely demolished by Hereditary and Midsummer, and he wanted to make one of those. How successful do you think he was at making one of those?
Um, I just rewatched Hereditary. It is incredible how much you can miss the bar on Hereditary. How much you could miss like one of the big things of Ari Aster's films, which is that there are scenes that are intentionally funny, or at least could be funny or could be horrifying, so
Yeah.
that the scenes that are just horrifying are more horrifying. But when you just don't let up on it, it just makes everything 10 times campier.
Yeah, I mean, something about just like the tone, trying to kind of emulate that Ari Aster tone, but it just lands on goofiness. It's really rough. Like the sort of these Gregorian chants, they're like kind of going in 1,000 different directions, like oh, and then you have this like shot of a like pagan statue that they're doing like goofy lighting effects to.
Yeah,
All of these like
I looked
slow
at
paced things that are going
I,
on.
I looked that up, and I guess that's supposed to be the Green Man, which is why that one guy also has a bunch of leaves and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's basically um a about the cycle of rebirth in spring, like in paganism.
Mm.
And so much like how Ari Aster will kind of draw on a lot of pagan imagery in order to like construct his own specific lore of the universe he's working in, to give it its own rules and its own ideas, and to kind of connect imagery and scenes in his film into larger politics or larger cultural discussions. It seems like Alex Garland was just like symbol of rebirth. Yoink! Got it. Metaphor found.
Thematic backbone of the film secured.
This is a load-bearing metaphor, people. All right?
And yeah, it that's kind of what it's meant to be. I don't know if I can go any longer without talking about it. I like
about the cycle of rebirth.
I'm getting the shakes.
All right. We're jumping ahead here. Hey, Faru.
Hey, you know what would be fucking crazy? You know what would be fucking wild and wacko? What if there was a man, a naked man from the forest, and he gave birth out of his pussy to another man who gave birth to another man who gave birth to another man. There's some things to unpack about this ending here. I don't want to call it on its face transphobic. It's just very ignorant.
Yeah.
Very like hyper misguided.
It's funny because it feels like the way he tried to go around that was like, okay, so like the first one comes out of his butthole. Like, so that one's like, that's not where trans men give birth. They give it out of, that one comes out of the butthole. So it's like, it's like an impreg fetish thing.
Yeah.
And then another one, I don't know, comes out of his mouth. And then the last one, shoulders.
Yeah, back.
I don't know where the fourth one's gonna come from. We'll just cut away. Harper will just get bored after the second one and just leave.
So fucking funny. Oh my god.
I like lost it laughing when she just walks away.
She's just like, I'm done.
All right, I see what you're doing. I'll catch up with you.
Man.
It's like when you know where the scripted path that an NPC is taking is going, and you just go to the end of the level to wait for them.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, when your abusive boyfriend or husband or whoever, like, when they have a tantrum and they start giving birth on the floor of the living room, you just gotta kind of ignore them and, like, suffocate the energy and just, it's not about giving in. It's like, yeah, I feel crazy. I feel crazy about the end of this movie. It's extremely funny. The shot of the teenager who was just given birth to, he just kind of stands up and he just goes, and then he like throws up an entire other man.
Yeah. It's so fucking funny. Oh my god, it's such a fucking insane scene.
It's psychotic. It's so extreme.
It's like one of those things where it's like, man, in like an Ari Aster kind of film or something, I could see this being like super morbid and horrifying. Because whatever, he accomplishes body horror, I guess, with it.
Sure, yeah.
But everything else that happens up to that point in the film, and then that sequence is so absurd that it becomes cartoonish.
Yeah.
It becomes like a Danny DeVito bit.
Yeah, it's Danny DeVito spilling out of the couch in Always Sunny.
It really is just like one of the lessons he took from an Ari Aster film is that like, oh, so when people are naked, it's scary.
Oh my god. Yeah, he has this sort of surface level absorption of like the Ari Aster thing that he's trying to do. I don't know, I'm just so weirded out by how hard he's copying notes here. Like it's it tries so hard for that tone. Very, very, very blatantly, I would say. And I mean, like, sometimes you gotta copy notes. It is what it is. Art is
Yeah.
hard. Art's not easy.
Great artists steal, or whatever the thing people would used to say to defend Quentin Tarantino is.
Yeah, exactly. But here, just so bizarre, and of course, the culmination is that they give Mpreg birth to her abusive husband, who killed himself,
Yeah.
supposedly because of her.
And who killed himself in another thing, this movie, and it's just like weird, like very heavy handed, but to what end imagery, where her husband is like half crucifixion imagery.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you don't just come up with, like, so he fell to his death and the injuries get recreated on the men, and then that's what causes him to be reborn or whatever. So
Yeah,
they have to be iconic. You're like, okay, so he falls in a way where his hand just half crucifies on a fence
yeah,
in
yeah.
like the most insane possible. Like, how did he fall like that? How did he turn his body in that way to like hand land on that and then rest of him land?
Yeah, it's a really, I don't know, it's just a very heavy-handed heavy-handed, and then definitely like kind of, like kind of getting off on I don't want to say getting off on it. Like trying to do the sort of like shocking image thing in a very heavy-handed way. I was not really a fan of that. Uh
The apple imagery from the tree too, and that same sort of thing,
oh
where she
yeah.
eats the apple. And then another thing, they take the like everything falling out of the tree from Antichrist.
Yeah. What the fuck? It's like such a lineage of weird reference points. That's like such a weird aspect of the movie too, is that it's like fart sniffy in terms of like all the reference points are men. They're
Yeah.
You didn't like what was your consulting process on this? On what was the process of theorizing this? Did you watch a movie by a woman? Did you talk to a woman? Did a woman write any part of this? Uh so just very weird.
I'm looking at the side here. Uh no. Not even on the production credits, it looks like.
Just insane. Very brain work good, brain good, smart brain do. Yeah, so, and a kind of case in point for that, well, the movie ends with her supposedly having a showdown with her ex-husband, but you don't see any of it. It hard cuts to her sitting out front, covered in blood or whatever, and she smiles at the camera, and then the movie is over.
No. Her friend shows up
Yes.
and she's pregnant, which is like the other funniest reveal in the film, because it's just like, eh?
Why?
Anything? Did you catch all the pussy imagery in this film? Check this out. This bitch is
Hey.
pregnant.
This character who you've only seen the face of, she's
You,
pregos.
you only saw her face because she was pregnant.
Oh.
Weird that her best friend never asked her how that was going. But
Not a part of any of the conversations. Oh, how's the baby doing? No, don't do. I don't care. Don't tell me about your baby.
I'm gonna drive 4 hours. Oh, it's a 4 hour drive. I'll make it in 3. I'm gonna drive extremely fast. 8 months pregnant. No expression of concern. No, like, you should probably be a little safer than that, considering the fact that you are about to pop.
Maybe you could have got a man to do that driving for you, huh? The movie's
Yeah,
called it.
Where's the father in this relationship? Am I right? Am I right, ladies?
You know what this movie fucking needed? More men. Where are the men?
I only saw 2 men in this whole film. Everyone was. Which,
Goddamn.
sidebar, casting choice with the abusive ex versus the abusive men. That's
Hmm.
weird, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Like,
Hmm.
I could see maybe just that God, what's his name? What's the actor's name?
Oh,
Uh
Papa Esido?
yes. I could see, it's just he's really good. He does a really good job in the film. He's probably one of the better actors in the film.
Yeah.
Um I could see it just being like, they just cast him because he plays the role really well. Um but
It's a very British sort of short-sightedness on Alex's part, I would say.
right, it's like
It's an immediate,
if
like, gory death for him, and just like all of the loaded stuff about what's the most violent type of man there is.
at the
Uh-oh.
heart of every abusive white man,
Uh,
there's your implied to be mentally ill black ex. I
yeah.
guess is the implication here.
Yeah. Not, again, like a kind of another symptom of the movie not thinking too hard. Not,
Right.
you know. Uh
Another thing they lifted from Ari Aster. Because it's not like you couldn't do that in a different concept.
yeah.
Makes sense. Like if the sort of meat of the film was similar, that would probably be something that you could handle pretty easily.
Mhm.
Um, but when the kind of your big like, look at what I'm doing here conceit is that all the men of various threatening stature towards this woman are played by the same actor, and that actor is white,
Right.
then but at the heart of it all is her abusive ex, and then have that abusive ex be black, feels very just like you didn't think that like you put so many metaphors in this film, and you missed like probably the major one.
Yeah. Yeah, like it's that he is kind of seen as like the progenitor of all this violence and like the model for all of this violence. It's like not very well thought. It's not very
Especially
well
like
argued.
dude, you live in the UK. Like what? Hey, what insanely racially loaded conversations have been happening in the in the UK around, I don't know, specifically protecting women.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a very man, the UK, we're going to talk about a place that's just hotboxing themselves with absolute ugh, just bizarre direction politically that country is going, and by extension, I guess our country.
Like I
Yeah,
said, it's not like I'm like, well, you couldn't tell this story. Da 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 da. It's just if you're gonna tell the story in this way, like you're not thinking about anything in this story. You're not even thinking about like the most basic core metaphor of your film.
yeah, absolutely. Well, that's the thing that like the film is constantly it's very barbed toward the woman main character. Everyone's constantly telling her like, oh, maybe he was right, maybe you are a horrible bitch, maybe it was your fault that he killed himself. Uh and I think that Alex Garland should have an abusive ex-boyfriend if he wants to make the abusive ex-boyfriend movie, because there's not really a lot here that shows he understands the reality of that psychology and the like abject selfishness and the sort of like thoughtlessness of that type of abuse, because there's not really any sort of coherent response given toward it at any point in the film. It's really just something that she is forced to experience over and over and over again. It's just the experience of watching this woman get like re-traumatized and harassed over and over again, which is like,
Yeah,
I guess that's life, but there's no, she has to, she like, for the film to work, she has to have a response to it, I would think.
well, because ultimately, even though it's men and it's about women's experiences, or whatever, it's really just kind of about an obsession with men by men again, and not even again in an interesting way. Because even if you get the cycle of rebirth thing and you're reading it as like, oh, well, this is about like, cycles of abuse and how men pass on these behaviors to each other and like praise each other and reinforce them with each other. It's like, okay, but like, why does there need why are we following this character then? Because like you're not giving me anything about this character other than just, well, she's the woman. In fact, the film would be better if it was called The Woman, which
Oh
is
man.
unfortunately already a film from 2011 by Lucky McKee,
Oh, God
which
damn
is
it.
also about misogyny.
Oh, we gotta watch that one now. Shit.
It's written about what's her name covers it in House of Psychotic Women.
Oh, Kiera
Uh,
Janice.
yes, it sounds uh atrocious,
Okay.
but it's it sounds like that kind of super evil misogynistic film that ends up being more interesting because of it. Because when a misogynist makes a movie about the scariest thing they can imagine being a woman.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I don't know. I haven't watched it. I might be wrong. It is the same director who did May, which I thought was
Oh,
which yeah, it's the same director as May who did The Woman.
okay. That's,
Uh,
hmm.
so it could be really good. I know the House of Psychotic Women author seemed to speak. I remember said pretty decent about it.
Right.
It's just one of those things where it's like I also remember reading a little bit about it and it just being like this movie sounds like it's either like really really interesting but like really difficult to sit through, or really difficult to sit through and you come away with it being like that leads to actually, so using that to jump back to the priest character, that exchange like to me demonstrates so much of like the problems in this film.
Hmm.
Is because okay, setup premise, I'm there.
Yeah.
She's fucked up. She's lost. She's confused. This shit's being really, really weird. She's encountering like maybe kind of cultish stuff going on in the woods. Oh, good old religion. That's what offers solace in our times of need. Oops, I forgot that a lot of religions in the West, especially, are super patriarchal. So of course they're still going to take the side of my abusive ex. Um, one, her response to like the specific way the response is filmed, where he's like, "Oh, you must feel some guilt," and she's like, "I don't," is very like, w- not that she should feel guilt,
Right.
but like you would. Like anybody who's been in a situation where like somebody who did awful shit to you and you putting down hard boundaries leading to that person like getting worse or something happening to them, you
Yeah.
feel guilt about it because that's how that shit fucks you up, is it makes you feel like, oh well, I should have just taken more pain.
Yeah.
uh
Absolutely.
right off the bat it's like, okay, you don't actually understand the psychology of your own character. um but then also she like gets up and the priest like basically smells her seat and it's like, why does he also have to be a horny it's like you were like the guy's he doesn't come off as creepy and like invasive and like evil enough, he also is horny.
He's also a
Like, oh
repressed,
okay.
horrible. Oh, he's yucky. Oh.
Oh, he wants to have sex with her, and if I was a woman I wouldn't have sex with this guy.
Yeah,
like
that's a huge
like
thing.
what's the point? Like why you have so many other male characters that can have an uncomfortable interest in her, including the teen character, where it would probably make the most sense for the metaphors of the film. But it's like, horny priest trope, here it is. The priest is also horny.
Priest horny, horny priest, priest horny, horny priest guy. Yeah, really, again, not very like lived in, just really kind of short-sighted and surface level conversations about a really complex form of guilt and PTSD. That's really the ultimate thing about this, is like, this is, yeah, like it is a horrifying psychological event. It is designed to basically like break Harper, make her feel the same sort of like grief and horror that supposedly is felt by James, the ex-husband who killed himself. Uh, and that is not very thought through. And I would also say, just like pulling from Ari Aster again, like the tone of these types of conversational scenes that happen in Ari Aster's films is like they're very like they want there to be more depth. They're super loaded, and they want for you to be like, oh, Toni Collette's character, she can't really, she's in like a between a rock and a hard place. She can't really like say no to this other character who she doesn't know like what the wants, what the impulses of this like strange occult lady that she's talking to is. But she feels like she needs to talk to her daughter. She needs to make contact with her daughter, and like she needs to do all of this stuff, and the depth grows and grows and grows. And here in Men, the depth does not grow. She's like, no, I don't feel bad. No, I don't feel bad. No, I don't feel bad. And then at the end of the movie, she's like, no, I still don't feel bad.
Ugh, come and get me. I'm totally being harassed by these like weirdos.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know, just it is simply not that deep, and I wish that it went a little deeper.
There was like random comment or something I read somewhere that like of a person's interpretation of the film that made me wish we got that film, where they were like, yeah, I kind of like the like the metaphor of like using in horror films like so much of like slashers and stuff. It's all like kind of just palette swap slashers terrorizing the like women over and over again. So like it doesn't really matter who's stalking her and stuff. It could be anyone because they're all kind of the same and they all sort of like perpetuate the same system, yada yada yada. And I'm like, that would have been a really cool idea if the movie did it.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't just like the weirdest grab bag of trope kind of characters that aren't really tropes but are like discursive tropes.
Right.
And then just yeah, it just doesn't do anything with what it's doing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's the classic Alex Garland thing of just thinking it's way smarter than it is, when it should have been either smarter or honestly simpler. It could have you could have just made a really simple film. It probably would have been more effective and scary. Just make a horror film. A lady goes to town, everyone's got the same face, she's fleeing the death of her abusive ex, and I don't know, the town is doing a ritual to bring him back from the dead for some reason.
Yeah.
There you go.
Shit.
Yeah. You know what I just watched recently that had that had sort of similar kind of thing like that, but was like way better. Give me 1 second to get the name right. Messiah of Evil. Weird, super stylish, but really cool, like 70s horror film. Looks like it was filmed on like construction paper. Just the worst
like
film
that.
stock. The worst film stock possible. like it came on a VHS transfer when they filmed it.
Oh my god.
Looks beautiful, but it's about like just people and this like woman coming to try to find her dad, and there's obviously like a lot of like weird history there, and it's basically a Shadow over Innsmouth kind of film, but it's really good. And
Cool.
part of the reason why it's really good is because it just tells a simple horror story and uses all the stuff in the background to flavor it and give it a sense of real lived experiences that the audience can relate to. It is not a series of metaphor set pieces through which you are piloting this film's Barbie doll that you have picked up.
God. Yeah. Usually I like Barbie doll filmmaking, but oh my god, it really depends on the voice of the creator.
Are you excited for the Barbie doll movie?
Yeah, I am.
Who's the director on that again? Barbie movie.
I know it's got Margot.
I know. Yeah, it's got Margot. It's got like a insanely good looking cast so far.
Yeah, it's got Hari.
fuck, who was the director attached to it?
Greta Gerwig.
That was it, Greta Gerwig. Yeah, insane get. just an absolute insane grab for that film. I'm so stoked for. I'm more stoked for that than this movie.
I definitely am. Yeah, I remember thinking Lady Bird was all right. It was it was good. Which sounds very, I don't know, it sounds condescending to say it like that.
Yeah, but I get what you mean. It's oh no. She co-wrote the script with Noah Baumbach.
Well, all right. I mean, I'll still watch it.
I'll still see it. I mean, it's about Barbie. They can't do the normal thing that they do in their movies. It's about Barbies. Come on.
I mean, can they not? If it's like Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling having like fights for the entire screen time, that might be worth it. That might be really good.
Yeah, no, I mean that's while looking like Barbie doll characters.
Just an insane film. I'm definitely very excited for that.
No, I am hoping that people are learning the correct lesson from the Batman, which is that stunt casting works if you do it correctly, and your movies should be insane. Your movies should sound like an insane pitch. It shouldn't be like, oh my god, that's the role they were boring to play. It should be like, bam, we got this director for no reason to direct this IP, and we're casting a rat man from TikTok.
I don't know. It would be a little bit. I would be remiss to kind of bring up that Alex Garland has been having like a bunch of like interviews where he's talking about how like unconfident he is about this film and how he kind of wants to quit making movies because he doesn't have fun doing it anymore. And he's been showing up at a bunch of screenings for Men and being kind of sheepish about the film. So, sorry for going so hard on the film, Alex. You're right, it's not very good, but I feel a little bit less, I don't know, less sort of sympathy because he did sign on to do yet another film with A24, which is going to be called Civil War, which can only be more heavy-handed.
Oh. Come on, dude. You can't follow up that little sheepish like, well, with all me, this movie making is real hard, and then go anyway. For my next film, it's gonna be the Civil War.
For my next film, I'm gonna bite off even more than I can chew.
Alex, learn how like two people talk, or you know what? Maybe don't. Maybe the Civil War will just be a lot of really beautiful scenery.
Yeah.
I'll give him that. His movies look good.
Yeah, they look pretty.
They're all right to look at.
You
maybe he should lean into that. There's plenty of films that I like to just look at.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I need to just get a little bit more involved in the Garland verse. He's done a lot more things than I remember
Yeah, I didn't know that he was a story supervisor on the 2013 Devil May Cry game.
Yeah, that's fucking insane. That's probably
he wrote 3 books.
Yeah, the 28 Days Later guy, the Sunshine guy, the Dread guy, I guess. I never saw Dread, but people seem to like Dread. I don't know. Just a little bit of a hit and miss situation here that we've got.
I don't know. He had 3 misses in a row. Well, actually, you know what? I haven't watched all of Ex Machina. I've gotten 20 minutes in every time I've tried to watch it.
Yeah, I would not recommend completing Ex Machina. I remember seeing it in theaters in 2014 and being like, oh, that was kind of interesting, and thinking about it for about 2 seconds and being like,
I'm still just like so enamored by the idea of just playing off like, oh, I don't know, movies are hard. Like that's how you're gonna get people to soften up their blows on your movie that you know is gonna flop, and then to just immediately be like, anyway, my next movie's about the Civil War. That is such a male manipulator move. Alex Garland, you are the men.
You're the men.
Hey, why are his grandparents' names blue?
Love to hear that. Love to hear that about someone who's working in the film industry. Just once I want to see some red in the name of like the parents and grandparents of someone
I
who's
want to see
famous.
their parents' names and then in brackets next to it, citation needed.
Yeah, that's what I want. Come on, we need more filmmakers like that. Stop it with this fucking generational wealth bullshit. This is why we get movies like Men. Ugh.
Hold on, let me check something here. Um, yeah, his grandpa's Wikipedia page is longer than his.
Jesus Christ! That's Men
Yeah.
for you, am I right?
Can't live without him.
Can't,
Pretty happy most of them are around. I don't know. I like
Yeah.
Men.
I think
Alright.
the real life implications of Men, I think, is a little more optimistic than this movie kind of states. I mean, like, there can be transgender men; those exist too. I think that's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, no, they're making new kinds of men every day
There's
down
all
at the
sorts
Gender
of-
Factory.
There's all sorts of types of guys. They're not all Rory Kinnear.
What do you call this act? Men. I did see a really honestly mediocre article because I feel like people make this point every time there's a new movie about people arguing that this film kind of represents the beginning of the end of this sort of genre of metaphor horror because it literally just tips over into the point of like parody. This is I've been seeing a bunch of those. There's been so many lately I've been seeing where it's like I'm watching it and I'm like, if you did like a scary movie style parody of these kinds of films, which by the way I thought about it and I decided the title would be after a personal tragedy, because that's like the plot synopsis for all these films is always like after a personal tragedy, comma.
Just call it personal tragedy.
Yeah, but it's like there's so many scenes in these where it's like you would just need to take it like a little sillier to make it just comedy.
Oh yeah, no, not very much sillier at all by like a millimeter. Some of it just was straight up funny.
Add 3 more births and you got a punchline to a Wayans brother comedy.
Yeah, we gotta hit up the Wayans brothers. We gotta see what we can do about this. This is a cottage industry waiting to be born.